So the Misogi was a great opportunity to, ask yourself, what am I capable of? And then also to understand the importance of, leadership, not missing details, because they just get you. If you do one thing wrong, if you do one sequence wrong, if you do a push-up wrong, if you do something wrong, you're punished. And they don't punish individuals, they punish groups and teams.
Cody, nice to have you.
Thank you for having me, man.
So you're part of a men's group. I don't know that I believe in men's groups. I think they're kind of weird.
I firmly disagree with you.
I think
let's go.
No, the truth is, in the past I thought they're weird. Jimmy has built this, I'm just getting sucked in from afar. Right, I live in Arizona. I just bought a house from a guy who's in.
I used to live in Tempe and Chandler.
Okay, so one of the guys, he might be in your group, but I bought a house from a guy that's in the group. One of the only guys probably in Arizona. Josh Sherwood. You know Josh Sherwood?
Yeah, Josh, yeah.
And he's my next door neighbor now. Okay. So talk to me about this men's group that you're a part of. Why are you so passionate about it?
Oh, man. I mean, how much time do we have? I love it. I mean, it's incredible. There's a saying, birds flock, fish school, people tribe. It's true. You need a tribe and you need a group. And what makes it so incredibly special is that it's very purpose-driven. We're very intentional about what we're trying to do as we work through these steps together in our tribe. And the foundation has been solidified through vulnerability, integrity, and transparency, which are very, very powerful pieces to unite people. And so we're brothers, man. We established that really quick. We are built up through really incredible challenges, with our mind, our body, and our spirit. But then we're tore down to where we've been sobbing and there for each other. And we've had so many incredible transformations for people that not only last your lifetime, but could really last generations of lifetimes. So I could talk so much about it. The vision behind it, what Jimmy really put together is beautiful. He told me about it maybe a year before he launched. We were bowling and he just told me about it. And I mean, I've known Jimmy since I was 12.
Oh, wow.
And
let's go back.
Yeah. Of all the people that you kind of grow up with, there's only been two that I've really latched onto that we see eye to eye, entrepreneurial, etc. And Jimmy's just been a fantastic, friend and leader that way. But he told me about it. We were bowling and I'm like, bro, adventure with intention this is amazing, sign me up.
What are the misconceptions of men's groups, right? Because again, I am being drawn into this thing. I'm really interested in what Jimmy's doing. Yeah. So much so that either I'll end up joining myself and or doing one potentially in Arizona. I'm really interested in what he's built.
Yeah.
But some of my misconceptions before is those groups are for weak-minded people. They don't, right? But it's
I don't need it. Yeah.
That misconception for me has gone away. So for you, what do you think some of the misconceptions are of people that are thinking about joining, but just haven't yet?
Probably a lot. There are ultimately misconceptions around maybe it being just overly masculine. There's this attack on toxic masculinity, which is, a different conversation, but a lot of that's just nonsense. And some of it's fear. I think the reality is you never arrive. You don't all of a sudden reach a plateau and you're like, you know what? I'm here. It doesn't matter if you're Yoda. Yeah. You have something to learn, you can, the 8th degree black belt doesn't just sit on the side and is I'm good. That's when humility comes in and wisdom. And so they're constantly sharpening their sword and growing. So I think it's more of an internal, if you want to look inward, if you want to look at where you're at and you'd like to raise the bar a little bit, a group is a great spot for you to do it. That's intentional around it. And it's not a comparison thing. I think we all have to be careful about comparing, about comparing, but it's like, where are you right now? And then do you want to raise the bar a little bit with your family, your fitness, your faith, finances, your health and wellness, your relationship, your intimacy, and if you want to do that, then get in an environment where guys will actually challenge you. And that's one thing I love about our group is that we do not play buddy-buddy. We will call each other out. We will challenge one another. And
from a very loving place, I'm assuming.
It's the best place. Yeah. A complete place of love to talk about it. So the men in our group are, measuring those things. So there's a lot of misconceptions around it, but I think it boils down to that kind of a lot of the individual fear. If there's a reason why you're like, well, I don't need this. Well, obviously you don't understand it, or you don't care to raise the bar. You don't want to. And I mean, these groups have existed for hundreds, thousands of years, and structured groups like YPO or EO, you being an entrepreneur, you're familiar with those. Those never checked my boxes, I even applied for those, and I even interviewed with them, and I was going to do those groups, but it didn't check my boxes. But the way that Jimmy's built this one definitely does.
Why did you decide to join? I mean, obviously you had a little bias because Jimmy was your lifelong buddy, right? But that's probably not the only reason you joined, right? So before you joined and you actually knew what it was all about, why did you decide to do it? What in your heart was like, I should probably do something like this?
Yeah. Tony Robbins says success leaves clues. So, Jimmy's life is beautiful. It's awesome. And he is one that has put in the time. He's read 500 plus books, spent over $1 million on personal development. And again, it's not like he has arrived. He doesn't stop. Yeah. He never ever stops. He's going to go for 200 countries, or he's going to do everything that he wants to do, and he wants to help people and transform lives. And it comes from a place of love and authenticity. And, I would never bet against him. If he's like, I'm going to do this, I'd be like, you might want to bet on that. Yeah. So
he was a big draw for you.
Well, yeah, he is a man, we've done I did all the Tony Robbins stuff, all of the all of Tony Robbins, went to his resort. What is it called? All of his courses are, I think, Mastery University. You do everything, Date with Destiny, UPW. He has his grad school. He's written books. He's proof. He's proved, he has the proof. And so, and he's a leader's leader. So, and to be a leader's leader or a leader of men, you have to have certain qualities. And I'm extremely picky about who I listen to or who I take advice from. There's so much noise out there. So Jimmy just checks all the boxes. And I think the biggest thing for me was that I know that it's coming from a place of genuine love. I mean, he could be doing 10 other things that throttle this in money and income, and but he's choosing to really spend his time on the heart and in the minds of people to help heal them and transform them.
Amazing. Is there one thing, I mean, look, I think it's obvious to everybody that there's no this isn't a silver bullet. It's not like sign up for this thing and your life's going to be better. It's like, you still obviously have to put in the work, and it probably means, I'm sure everybody gets something different out of doing these things, right? But is there one thing for you that's been the most impactful thing about being a part of this group?
Probably just the depth of friendship. And I think the word brother is, maybe overused, but I'm closer with the guys in my Watt leadership group than anyone in my life.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, excluding my wife, my wife I'm absolutely closest with, but after that, it's those guys, they know my head, they know my heart, they know they know everything. And it's a sacred space where it's confidential and protected. But but it's vulnerable. So we just talk about what's going on and then hold each other to a high standard of like, well, you know, what are you doing about that? Or what's going on with that? What does the next 6 months look like? So everyone's working to build and improve.
Yeah. I'm interviewing Jimmy on the podcast tomorrow, and we're gonna talk quite a bit about this. So I don't want to go too much further, but I definitely want to ask you about this 12-hour Misogi exercise that you went through. I also know that you've done an Ironman, and I want to chat you up about that. But talk to me about this 12-hour Misogi that you did.
I'm grateful to Jimmy and the WOT team for putting that together. Something really powerful about being shoulder to shoulder and doing work with men that you love and that you respect, but and when you sweat together and you bleed together, I'm beat. It looks like I got in a fight with 3 cats right now. I have scratches everywhere and bruises, and it was a fantastic experience to learn from Navy SEALs. And there were so many amazing takeaways. I mean, one, it's actually kind of interesting. One of the instructors was like, I'm really impressed with how well you guys are communicating for having just met each other.
Oh.
And then Jimmy was like, no, we've known each other for 1.5 years. And the guy was like, what the fuck?
Oh, really?
You guys have known each other for 1.5 years?
The guy had no idea.
And this is the type of the way that you support each other. So he went from being impressed to like
underwhelmed.
Really? Just, wow, you know, I see people struggling in the back. I see people really struggling, and I don't see you guys stepping up to support. Whoa. Is that how you show up for people that you love and care for?
That's
after 1.5 years? And we were like, whoa. So the Misogi was a great opportunity to, ask yourself, what am I capable of? And then also to understand the importance of, leadership, not missing details, because they just get you. If you do one thing wrong, if you do one sequence wrong, if you do a push-up wrong, if you do something wrong, you're punished. And they don't punish individuals, they punish groups and teams. And so it was a great opportunity to kind of look inward and say, what am I capable of? To go to war with the mind, because your mind wants to quit. But your body will do anything. If you're like, no, I'm in charge. You're not hijacking me. I'm in charge here. And so it was just really powerful to be there and support each other and cheer each other on. We had guys puking and stumbling, and it was awesome, man. It was a wonderful experience. And shout out to Jimmy, because he's doing this full MDK. This 75-hour challenge. So Jimmy did this last year, but he went 12 hours. It was like 36 degrees, pouring rain, worst day in California. And, if you look from the outside, you're like, you only went 12 hours of 75. Absolute hell, though. You can't imagine what we went through in 12 hours that we did with him. But we had, it was like 58 degrees, sunny. It was perfect leaving Utah. And they were in worse conditions. They're much stronger on you. So he's going back to do that 75-hour challenge. They don't allow spectators or anything, but I love that we did that as a group, because I know he's going to carry that energy into, when he goes back.
That's amazing. Those are the kind of things that you just can't do. You can't do otherwise. Like, I'm not part of a men's coaching group today. I can't go do that. I mean, maybe if I research it and figure it out and plan and find the right people, but it's like to have that experience just teed up on a silver platter for you to just show up and do.
Amazing.
That's special, right?
Yeah, it really is. Bedros and his guys, Ray and Steve, they have different sort of programs, and one of them is called Squire program. It's for youth 13 to 16. And it's a 1 or a 2 day project where a father and a son go through something similar, like the Misogi we just did.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I watched videos on it, and I heard them speak about it. And I have a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old, and I came home and I showed my son, I'm like, do you want to do that? And he was like, yeah. I was like, let's go.
Oh, so, that's amazing.
Yeah. And so just amazing men. It was just an honor to experience that with everybody.
Amazing. Yeah. You've accomplished something that most people will never be able to say that they've done, which is a full Ironman. Mm-hmm. And I have a ton of respect. I used to be into ultra distance running, and swimming was always my kryptonite. I started as a cyclist. I got into running. Swimming was always challenging for me. Never done an Ironman. But it's definitely on my bucket list. But I also know the preparation that it takes to be able to do one. So I'd love to hear the way that you prepared in doing your first Ironman earlier this year, or I guess last year.
Yeah. So one of the things that's really special about this walk group is it really tightens up your inner circle fast, and you get to see, what types of men that are in there. So we floated it to all 50. We had 10 bite, and then 5 ended up finishing. I think 10 paid for it. And even
who suggested this?
I suggested it.
You started it.
I started it. I was with Mike Hartle. We were in Moab in a Jeep, and I said, "What's one thing you want to do? You've wanted to do for a long time. You just haven't." He said, "Full Ironman." I'm like, "Let's go." I've wanted to do one for a while. And
wow.
Hartle, there's a thing about Hartle. I don't know if you know that guy, but this is a guy you want to go to war with. This is a guy that runs 5.5 minute miles, and he doesn't even train.
Who is he?
He's a savage.
Is he part of your group?
He's just part of our group. Yeah, he's in our group. I love Mike. And he just looks at me. He's like, "Would you do a full Ironman?" "I'd do an Ironman." And I was like, "Yeah, I would do an Ironman." He's like, "When would you do one?" And then immediately I'm like, I like this guy. I was like, "Within 18 months. He's like, "How about the next 9? I was like, "Yeah, I think I can make that work. Actually, my wife's pregnant, and this is a good time for me to train while our baby's not here." And so we were blessed because one of the guys in our group, Mike Conti, if you're a cyclist, you know that name. Mike, the Iron Cowboy James, he knows Mike Conti because of cycling. He did Race Across America multiple times.
He's probably doing Tour to Utah.
He owns tons of records for all that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, and then he's done 9 Ironman and Ironman Paris, Ironman. Yeah, so he's in our group. And he's summited all these massive 7,000-8,000 peak mountains. And then you just hear about him, and he's like this humble giant. Wow. And so you're like, "Wait, you did what? You did what?" And he won't tell you it. You have to claw it out of him. And so my eyes were so bright, and I'm like, "Conti," I'm like, there's some guys that want to do an Ironman. Would you coach us? And he was like, "Yeah." So Conti just gave us totally, man. Totally. He gave us, we had this, meeting together to learn about where we are and what we could do over the next 7 months. And you had guys that had never been in the pool, that had never been on a bike, and hate running. And they don't go into a sprint or an Olympic, they go into a full Ironman, not a half, a full. And so he gave us a training plan. We had this chat channel, and just supported us as a coach. And what was incredibly powerful, and this comes from our group, is not being alone. Because we had hard days. We had time, you're blocking hours and hours per week. Sometimes you're gone 7 to 9 hours on a Saturday, 10 hours, because you have to get all 3 in. You have to build those disciplines. You have to master swimming, master cycling, and then be able to run a marathon at the end of it. It's brutal. And then the build for that is sacrifice. But what was so cool is, these guys, full circle, it's all with We Are the They and this brotherhood. Someone would be out running, and, they would just have a hard time. They'd be like, "Hey, I got called out by my family, my wife. They're struggling because of how much time this is taking." And guys would get emotional on there. And then you'd have someone that's like, "I am just, my bones are so sore. I'm aching." And there's a few of us over 40, and then all of a sudden a video would come in and someone's pounding the pavement, like, "Let's fucking go, guys. You are not, yeah. You are not alone. You're not alone. I am with you. If you hurt, I hurt. If you need to run today, I need to run today. If you need to log those laps, I need to do it." So I could have done it without the group, but it was so powerful to have those guys do it and us do it together. So Conti did the whole plan for us. And then he drove our bikes out from Utah to Des Moines, Iowa. And
did he do it too? Or
he didn't do it.
Support?
No, he's he's been a bit injured, and he just had a shoulder surgery, but he's had some back challenges. And I would never make excuses for a guy like that because he's a savage, but he just wasn't in the right position to do it. But he drove our bikes out, and then our wives flew out. So we had this meetup before the race, and then he was just totally took care of our wives and where we could see us and all the transition. We didn't even know what we were doing, and he just guided us through everything. So all we had to do was show up and do the work. And it was a brutal day. Everybody knows St. George for being just crazy brutal. Well, we had more DNFs, like did not finish, than St. George. It was 100% humidity and 90 degrees outside.
Oh my God.
So you go from sort of a dry heat desert, springish, and then you go to 90 degrees and 100% humidity.
Yeah, that'll test you.
Yeah, it was a brutal day, but it was amazing to be with the guys. And then the run course was 3 laps, so we could see them. And I mean, there were people passing out in ambulances and heat stroke and exhaustion. And so it was an amazing day, though. You know, we all crossed the finish line. We all finished together. And it was just something, the build up, the 7 months of training and that whole time period to train together was really special. And what you realize at the end, like through it, I'm riding my bike, and I'm riding on the backside of Utah Lake. We're riding like all the way down to Woodland Hills and back up, like down by Salem, and going all these long bike rides. And I tell my wife when I get back, I'm like, these are the types of guys that I always want in my life. Like, these are the types of guys that sharpen me up so tight. I would go to war with these guys. They are stone cold savages. And these are the men I want around me all the time.
I mean, I just got the chills when you said that. How do you find those people, right? Without joining a men's group necessarily, right? Because there's going to be certain people who maybe can't afford to do it, or it's not convenient for where they're at or whatever, right? So how do you identify who the savages are and who they aren't?
First, just be that person, like be a savage.
What do you mean by that, by the way? Like, can you unpack that for me?
Yeah, I
think I know, but I don't know that everybody listening knows what you mean by that.
I mean, everyone's going to have a different version of it, but like for me, it is the Jocko Willinks, it is the David Goggins, it is the people that are constantly pulling in suffering and pain and challenge, or some type of challenge that is very taxing on them. And a lot of times that is physical. Sometimes it could be, hey, I'm gonna get my graduate degree while I'm building a business. So you got that mental challenge of getting your master's degree. And so I think it's people that are always pushing the limit to grow and expand their mind, expand their physical capabilities. And they're a shining example to others. They inspire others. They're the leader. They're the leader that they admire. So if you're like, hey, look, man, I admire these Navy SEALs that we were just at for this Muskogee. What do they live? How do they live? What are their ethos? How do they think? Well, those guys are savages, man. So, and it's not just the physical stuff and that discipline. It's like they don't miss a detail in life. They dot the I's and cross the T's. They don't make their bed wrong. They don't say something wrong. They act with integrity. They don't fuck around with anything, So, yeah, man, I think being a savage and it's part of tightening up your inner circle. I talk about this with some of the guys in our walk group. I mean, we all have layers, of like, maybe there's some dudes from high school that I'm like, I love you. But when they're like, hey, you want to go golfing? I'm like, no, I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
And then my inner circle guys are someone like Hartle. That's like, this guy's, he's just signing up for a 100-mile race. He's just pushing the limits. He did this Ironman. He's done MMA. But he's also incredibly good husband, man.
Yeah.
He cares about loving his wife and his kids. Like, he pushes. That's what it is, actually. a savage is someone that's winning with their family and winning with their wife and their relationship and winning with their kids.
There you go.
That's a savage. But they push those, that desire to be the best of themselves in physical, in mental, in spiritual. Like for me, I love Jesus. I want to grow closer to Jesus. I take everything to him. I want to pray more often. And treat my life like that Iron Man. Like it took that effort. Well, I can put that effort in my wife. I can put that effort into my kids, my business. So I like keeping it tight with people that think, act, and do that. So that's the savage. But the second thing is, how do you do that if you're not part of a group? It's like, well, just live that way. And the world, they're going to notice. People notice. I invited some guys on some rides that weren't in Watt and they weren't training with us for Ironman, but they're savages. I'm like, hey, Jake, you want to come ride with us? We're doing 70 miles. And he's like, yeah, let's go. And he shows up and it's just like earned immediately. It's like respect. Like, guys, this is Jake. Jake, this is Jerem Hartle, Conti. And we ride and he's just riding strong and doing well. And you learn about him and his business and like, this guy's a stud, Yeah. Really solid guy.
I love that. You said the word sacrifice, right? And I think it's an appropriate word for any time you want to achieve something great, right? In your case, it was a full Ironman. In somebody else's case, it's building a business, it's getting married. It's anytime you want to achieve greatness, sacrifice, I think is a really appropriate word to describe what you have to do to prepare, right? So let's transition into the company that you built. A company called InWhatLanguage.
Yep.
When you think about the word sacrifice, what sacrifices did you have to make to start and ultimately build that company?
So many sacrifices. And some of them not healthy at all, in the early to mid phases. I sacrificed some of my own integrity. I sacrificed relationships. I sacrificed time with my kids and my former spouse. I was married before. I sacrificed my health. Heavy things, sacrificed just my overall well-being because it was front and center. It just dominated everything that I did, how I thought. I traveled the world. I traveled the world with the governor. Governor Herbert is a good friend. And so a lot of time away, lots of travel time. Some of my I hurt people, unfortunately, my reputation. I can say in the early stages, we were on Inc. 5000 3 times. We won so many awards in Utah, and my ego was just on fire. It was all about me. I wasn't the leader that I am now. And, I went through a process where the Lord just humbled me, like whack, baseball bat to the knees, like I'm in charge. And you're like, oh, okay, I surrender. I'll follow you. So I've sacrificed a lot, man. I've sacrificed quite a bit to build it. And, all of that, it makes me really excited about what I'm going to be building next. Because I'm taking my story, my life, which you'll see that, hear about it, and I'll share that, and you'll get to know me at a really deep level. And then all of the roller coasters that I've been on, and how that's helped shape who I am today to be more intentional about everything. So be hyper intentional about everything I am doing with these areas in my life,
there's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack there. I think other entrepreneurs who are listening to this are going, yeah.
And some of those, I'm sure they check them,
Oh yeah, they're going. Oh yeah, integrity, relationships, health, well-being, yeah, all of that.
Yeah.
Right. So, you mentioned you separated from your wife at the time. Was a lot of that just because your priorities were out of whack? You were focused on the wrong things. You weren't putting in the time. You know, because other founder, I was a married founder, and I'm still married, and thank goodness she's stuck with me, right? But like, I have a lot of friends who, as they're building the company, it's like, it doesn't work, right? So how do you? What advice do you give to founders who want to make sure that their relationships thrive while they're building the company?
Yeah, really good question. So I'll tell you, so I was married for 10 years. I met, my former spouse really early, and I'm like, you're Brazilian and you're hot. This is going to be perfect. And then, we grew apart, and much of that is when people are growing apart, a lot of the times you don't know how to bring the other person with you or love them for who they are. We did about 5 years of therapy, and we went to probably 4 different therapists together. So there was a serious effort. Like, we weren't just, but some of the ways I lost my integrity was because I would numb myself. I would drink, and I actually even used ecstasy a little bit. And my relationship was deteriorating so much, I just wanted to numb myself. I couldn't see myself losing, like I never, ever, ever quit, ever. So I just couldn't. I was like, there's no way I'm going to get divorced. But what happens is, if you're not in the right relationship and things are not harmonious, sometimes there is a point where people can go through conscious uncoupling and you leave each other, and it's a good thing. Like, divorce is not always a bad thing, right? I would say that a high majority of people don't actually give it everything they've got to save it and to see if it's the right answer, and sometimes things end. So I numb myself with drugs, alcohol, and even pornography, to be completely honest with you. Pornography was something that was a big part of my early life, but started to creep back in to my marriage. And so I lost my integrity, and that's what I mean by that. And so, things deteriorated, and I ended up moving into my dad's house in his basement in boxes for almost a year while I'm building the company. And crazy story, side note, I went to a private dinner with former President George W. Bush. I was invited by Zions Bank, Scott Anderson, the CEO there. There were like 200 people in this room. We couldn't have cell phones, pads. We couldn't have a pen and a paper, nothing. It was off the record. And our interviewer, Mark Garfield was his name, said, did you, President Bush, did you ever have days where you just felt like breaking down and crying, and just really hard days? And he was like, well, hell yeah, I did. Thank God Laura was there. Sometimes I just have to hug her. Just be there for me. You're running 7 billion people, and everyone's looking at you for answers, and you have to make decisions. But let me tell you what, if I had my head down 3 degrees lower when I'd walk to the helicopter outside of the White House, what do you think the American people would think of me as a leader? So I thought, like, I have to be strong no matter what. So amidst all of the turmoil in the roller coaster, I'm on a dip, right? I'm going through some shit. My roller coaster's going through mud. It's about to derail. And I'm remembering things like that. Takeaway, like, be strong. I lost my integrity that way. We went through a divorce, and it took some time to find myself. I started to do a heavy internal deep dive on fixing that stuff, on, gaining my integrity back. And I went to all the Tony Robbins seminars. I worked with a therapist for quite a while, one-on-one. And I wanted to heal from that relationship, heal myself. So the answer to your second one is, like, don't lose your integrity. Don't do that. Don't do what I did, don't numb yourself. Don't go to cheap dopamine hits. Be that savage, be strong enough to say, hey, this isn't working, and I need some time. And and don't numb your environment, and maintain your integrity, maintain that communication, because you're going to have tough times. They're going to be really tough times. And a lot of my next company, I'm really focused. A lot of my employee base will be 18 to 25. And we have an internal training program, coaching program, that's very similar to WOD, actually. And a lot of the inspiration comes from Jimmy, but my own background, my own story, which I'll release soon. And we take, young adults through content, and we switch every 2 months. But I'm going to surface all this stuff.
Cool. I'm going
to make it raw. But a savage, a real good man that's really there is not afraid to tell that stuff, because it's like, if I can help one life, I don't care what people think about me, because you have all that stuff. Don't tell me you're perfect. If you have the courage to share it.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the most understated unlocks to a man transitioning from a boy to a man.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't matter how old you are. I'm not talking about age. I'm talking about maturity. To say, to finally say, I am who I am. You're going to like it or you're not.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit what you think about me, respectfully.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because I know, right? Yeah. I know who I am. And I think once everybody goes through this transition at some point, hopefully, all men, women too. Yeah. Go through this transition. And it's like, it can happen in a day. And once you realize, like, oh, I just flipped that switch, your life just becomes so much better. Yeah.
When you're in integrity, and you're true to yourself, you're free. Yeah. You're free. You're not worried about, what other people think. You're not worried about judgment. You just don't care. Yeah. But if you have a good heart, true intentions, and, you're going to attract who you need to attract. Yeah. In your life, and you can serve them. And I think that's the greatest honor, is saying, hey, look, I've had great success, but I've had so many, failures and challenges, and I've learned from them. But now I'm in a place where it's not about me. Like, it's not me. I'm ready. I'm in a place where it's outward. It's we, and I get to serve, and I get to help you transform your life and maybe some generations and things. So that's what I think is really a beautiful thing.
I think there's everybody in life right now is struggling in one way, shape, or form, some at different depths than others. Yeah. You talked about this healing process that you went through, where, again, you put in a lot of work. You probably put in a lot of sacrifice there too, just to heal. Yeah. I know it's not a one size fits all, but what things did you do to change your life? Like, you feel, we don't know each other personally, but you feel like you're in a great place.
Yeah, thank you. I do feel I'm in a really good place, in all these categories. Mentally, physically, emotionally. I remarried, 2 years ago. I found the love of my life on eHarmony, but I went through this process through writing a relationship vision and going to Date with Destiny and dating the right way. We had 300 or 400 questions to talk about trauma and pain and what does love mean to you. And, we talked about sex and intimacy and what's your relationship like with money, and, how does finance make you feel? What is your relationship like? I mean, we went so deep.
It's a process.
Yeah. You never ever learn that stuff when you're young. My parents didn't teach me that. They didn't know that, bless their hearts. But I'm in a really good spot right now. So some of the stuff that I did was just look internal, like, what do I need to learn to become the type of person for this person I want to attract? And what is me at a level 10, So I had, I had a therapist, I had a business coach. I started to go to all the Tony Robbins events. I realized I didn't know anything about women. Here's a subject that I'm passionate about, actually. Men know nothing about women. Nothing. So for everyone that went to college, I went to undergrad, grad school. You study for 4 years, 2 years are, associates, whatever, generals is what they're called. 2 years is focused finance or something like that. What if you spent 2 years studying women, studying their emotions, studying how they think, studying the way that they behave and why. You studied love languages. You'd study what it means to attune to a woman and what it means to listen to her. You read books. I've read probably 15 plus books on women and behavior. And then when I would read them, I was like, oh my gosh, you are an idiot. You know nothing about women and how to communicate with them. And there's some, really incredible takeaways from all that, from learning of like, I'm going to be prepared. When I meet the next woman, I'm going to be prepared to go into this. I'm going to take all the pain, all the learning, all the challenge, but I am not going to, jump back into something and get married again real fast. And like, I'm going to work on myself. And I did all that work. And then I was ready when I met my wife. Like, the Lord put her in my life, and she's been the biggest blessing to my whole entire family ever. She's the sweetest thing ever.
That's amazing. Congrats, by the way.
Thank you.
To go back to just general healing, I appreciate the advice on the relationship side, but when you think about where you were from a mental health standpoint, from a use of drugs and alcohol, use of pornography, like, was it therapy? Was it therapy that helped you get through that? Was it like, was there some kind of, was it books that you read? Was there some kind of process you adhered to? Did something switch internally? Like, how'd you go through that healing process?
You kind of hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's both. It's putting your pride and your ego aside. Like, even, I'm a smart guy and I like to figure things out on my own. But when you think that you know it all, or you think that you can figure it out, that's when you're in trouble. And so I knew that I needed, to look inward and kind of figure out why are these vices, why do they have control and I don't? Why do I want these cheap dopamine hits? And so I did. Yeah, therapy was very, very big for me. But it's the way that you show up in those, right? It's if you really, really care to understand yourself and to learn and to heal from past, I even worked through childhood stuff and behavior and all these things. And at the same time, I was investing in the books, great books. I was switching. My books are always personal development and win and grow in business and entrepreneurs. But then I went, internal, and I was reading about the mind, and I was reading about addictions, and I was reading about recovery, and I was reading about women. And then I was going to Tony Robbins seminars and learning about meditation. Like, meditation for me was like, no way. And being still with myself and forgiving myself, loving myself, just hearing that, like, that whole self-love thing is very real, and learning how to do that. It was just an investment in myself, and that never stops. So even We Are the They is an investment in myself to be around men. And so I can be honest with you, I can't share details because it's all confidential in our group. But there are men in our group that are in the spot that I was, 8 years ago. 8 years ago.
And they're working through the shit.
They're working through the shit. And to be able to be there for them and give them these resources and tools and hold them accountable, but love them, like, have that foundation of love. Like, bro, I've got you. You can't, I've walked that path.
It's amazing.
Like, I've been there, man.
Yeah.
But what's beautiful is, I don't know what percentage of men look at pornography. I'm thinking it's really, really, really high percentages.
It's gotta be.
But how many are in integrity saying, I don't like it. I know it destroys love. I have some challenge with it. They have courage to talk about it. And then they say, I want to fix this. How can I fix it?
Yeah.
Like, that's the hero to me. That's the person that's like, you're talking about roller coasters, heroes fall. All of them fall. Batman falls, Superman. The movie's not just like saving people the entire time. They always struggle. And the reality is in our life, to be our own hero, we have to rescue ourselves at different times. Unfortunately, sometimes that's twice or 4 times or 5. But the reason why these guys in our group are, they're my heroes is because of the percentage of people that just, they hide it and they don't want to talk about it. And, they live this fake life. But the guys that do want to show up and talk about it, it's like, you have my respect,
Incredible. You've hinted at something new that you're working on.
Yes.
Can you talk about it yet? Like, how much can you share?
So, I love this spot that I'm in right now, because I get to look at my life, where I've been and what's happened, and then I get to custom craft this new trajectory where I go in, and this process to do that, it's really beautiful. So 6 months ago, I knew I was going to sell my business. Actually, no, 7-8 months ago. And at that time I was like, what am I going to do? So I started to look at over 100 plus businesses, looking at different industries. I have a tech background. So I know OpenAI, I know development. I was looking at different things that way. I was looking at home healthcare and hospice water businesses. And I was looking on biz, buy, sell and buying businesses. But the greatest value I got was to create a list of like 30, 40 people, where I sat down with them and I asked them 6 questions. And it was, what opportunities do you see in the market? What industries do you think are really going to explode? Being that you're running this business or this division, do you see an opportunity for us to partner, for me to build a channel? Is there something you as an entrepreneur will know this? Sometimes there's things you'd like to chase, but you know it's not wise to. You're like, no, this is our niche, but we could probably kill it if I had some time, money, and the right leader. So I would ask that, like, there's a niche I could build? What's my superpower was a question. What am I best at? And then the last one was, who else should I talk to? And so
you are interviewing.
I'm interviewing
founders?
people. Yeah, I'm interviewing like Jimmy. I asked Jimmy all those questions. I asked a few guys in my walk group. I asked amazing people.
You want to do it live right now?
What's that?
You want to do it live?
Go through that process?
Yeah. We could literally do it right now.
What do you mean?
Like, you could ask the questions and I'll answer them.
Oh, yes.
You want to do it?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Start from the top.
Okay. What opportunities, what are the biggest opportunities that you see in the market, in industries that are scaling fast?
I come from automotive tech background, so I see that world a lot. I think there's huge, with the influx of EVs coming and taking over combustion, I think there's going to be lots of opportunities for software companies to build on top of battery technology.
Yes.
And make it easier to extract the right types of data for consumers to make better decisions, for businesses to make better decisions, to detect the health of a battery, for resale values, for their own sake, for when should we refurbish these batteries, how do we exchange these batteries. So I think there's lots of potential in the EV marketplace.
Absolutely. And it's just really getting started. That's great. Do you see any opportunities where we could partner? I could build a vertical, or since I'm out, I would say, do you see an opportunity for someone, or maybe yourself, to build, something that doesn't exist?
Ooh, that doesn't exist.
Or something new. So a lot of the people in these questions I would ask have existing businesses. So I'm asking if there's an arm or a vertical or a branch that we could build something that's complementary that they haven't done yet, but they want to put capital into.
I think one that would be really cool is the ability to make it simple for anybody who buys a new EV to have charging infrastructure at their home.
Oh, yeah. Okay. For sure. That is a pain. Today,
it's like, who's the nearest electrician?
Exactly.
Can they actually do it? Which kind of box do I buy for my car? Do I need converters?
It's expensive too. Yeah. That's a great opportunity. Another question would be, me, what is my superpower?
Ooh, I'm supposed to answer that about you?
Yeah. You don't know me, but
I mean, I would say based on our limited interactions with each other, I think you've got, to me, it feels like you have a pretty insane drive and work ethic to get things done. I don't know if that's what others would say about you, but that's what I'm sensing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And thank you. I appreciate that. That's part of that like savage life of being that person, be one. That the beautiful part of that is when I was asking people that they really know me. You don't know what the answer is going to be until you ask that question.
It's probably not always the same either, right?
It's not always the same, but you'll definitely
Pretty
get
consistent.
threads of similarity.
Yeah.
And that's what you lean into. So I was on the We Are the They tribe call maybe a month and a half ago, and I was talking about this, like, what's the process? What do you go through, to really kind of feel this out and kind of figure out what you're going to do next? Like, how do you figure that out? That was incredibly beneficial to go through those steps and, hear that feedback. The last one, the last question, I think I'm leaving one out, but it was, who else should I talk to? And it could ideally be someone in our network together, but maybe someone that speaks to you like, man, Cody, you need to talk to so-and-so.
That's really cool. So you did that interview.
I did that interview.
With how many people?
30 to 35.
Okay. After you'd sold your company.
During the process of the sale.
And that gave you the framework to be like, okay, I just got a bunch of data.
Yeah.
Now this is becoming pretty clear what I should do next.
Not pretty clear. It's giving me a lot of puzzle pieces to start to lay out on the table. Like, wow, this is really good. So let me just stew on this feedback and let me color code the same information and highlight these things and, pray on this and meditate on it. Meanwhile, selling my business, I'm in We Are the They, and one of my buddies that runs like a $250 million roofing company in Arizona. He's like, if you were to do something 8 hours a day for free, but you just would love it, it would bring you so much fulfillment, and you'd be so happy. You'd spring up every day in the morning. What would it be? Money doesn't matter. Time doesn't matter. I'm like, that's easy. I would teach 18 to 25-year-old young adults how they can transform their life, and what they can do.
Interesting.
And I would teach them all the things that took me forever to stumble and scrape my knees up, and how I could, benefit their life. And I've always been really frustrated with the curriculum in high school, because it's like they don't teach you about emotional intelligence. They don't teach you about basic budgeting. Mm-hmm. They certainly don't teach you about women or relationships.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting topic now. But I let that stew. I was like, And then a thread when I'd ask people, like, what's my superpower? A lot of them would say, you're an incredible leader, like coach. I would pay you tons of money to help me stay elite. You should coach elite. You should charge a lot of money to keep guys intensely sharp. And then I was like, that's cool. I don't want to become Jimmy. I don't want to build a coaching brand and stuff, but lean into it, right? So I could coach youth, and I actually love youth. And so, from age 13 to 16, I did everything you can imagine. I did meth, cocaine, mushrooms. I was dealing weed. I was dealing drugs. I lived in motels. I was around pimps and hookers, and my friend murdered someone over a drug deal. And some of that came back into my life later. You notice that thing in my marriage later. Some of those vices returned. Mm-hmm. It's awareness. But I've always had this. So at age 16, I got a DUI. God came into my life. The Lord came in and showed me temptation. He showed me Satan, literally. Like, I was like, whoa, I'll never ever forget it. It was an inflection point in my life where I made a turn and I said, I want to be around. That is a warning. And I want to be around examples. And in life, there's warnings everywhere. There's warnings of bad behavior, warnings of vices, warnings of, lots of things. But there's also examples, really good examples of who you want to be like, examples of behavior, examples of lifestyle, examples of how you show up for your friends or your wife. So I knew I wanted to be around good examples. So I just turned my pager off. I had a pager at the time, beeper. Thank God they weren't smartphones back then. And then I just started hanging out with my family. My family was ready to ship me away to do like pineapple picking programs and it's part of my story, but, and I don't walk away from any of it. It just made me who I am. But, when I was on an early morning walk with a dear friend, Brandon Andra, who runs Empower locally, a very large solar company, door-to-door sale solar company, he said, have you ever thought about working in door-to-door? Because I work with, 18 to 25-year-olds. And I was like, no, I know nothing about it. Like, I don't know anything about it. It's not my background. Mine's linguistics, technology, and translation. He's like, yeah, I work with them. And it's not easy, but, that's who you're talking about. And then we talked a little bit more. I'm like, do you ever hire people that have kind of like a troubled background? Do you ever hire people from Utah foster care or Big Brothers Big Sisters or New Roads or the Other Side Academy, addiction recovery centers? He's like, no, I don't. He kind of described who he works with, which are like cream of the crop, like the 2-year return missionaries that are fearless. They've knocked for Jesus.
Yeah, buttoned up.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
the whole deal.
Yeah. And then I realized in that moment, like, well, they wouldn't work for you because you can't relate to them. They wouldn't listen to you.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't know how to help them from where they are. So then I said, well, he said, they don't work in the culture. We've tried to bring people in like that, but they just don't mesh with the guys that we have. Oh, okay. So while he said that, I was extremely blessed in our group to be around guys that were running solar companies, guys that were running pest control companies, or senior executives at pest control, and then a guy running a window company, residential window company. And then my buddy runs a roofing company. And I just started to dig in. I started to ask them a lot of questions. They knew the journey I was on. They knew I was selling my company. They knew that I was, some of these guys, I asked those questions, those 6 questions. And then I just started to dig in, what's the business model like? How does it work? What are the margins? How does it structured? I learned that their sales engines, selling replacement windows and solar, were sales engines, and then they partner with subcontracting install agencies. So they're just building this massive sales engine. And I'm like, that's attractive, working with young 1825 sales engine. And then it hit me, just being in taking pages of my own book of like, steal like an artist is a quote, or the best leaders or followers. It means they've had to follow before. They steal something. Or Tony Robbins says, success leaves clues. Take something that's working, but put it through your creative lens. I mean, much of what we learn in WAD is Tony Robbins stuff, but Jimmy has a super beautiful, authentic, unique way of delivering it in his way. So I saw these models in windows and solar. I saw this incredible company culture at Empower, where they are not known to sell solar. They're known for being a financial freedom company, because they make the salespeople invest all those high solar commissions into assets and income producing assets, cash flow things. You can't go flex and buy a TRX and burn your money and do door to door next year because you spend it all.
Yep.
You're buying assets. So that's his culture. And then I was blessed to be around Jimmy's coaching and leadership. So I said, what'd be really powerful is if you embedded an internal coaching program where I took some of these troubled kids. I gave them a really, really clear path on a job, but I took them through a 2-year, 10-step transformation. I was saying the word hero earlier because my company is called Hero, and the journey they go through is called the Hero Journey. And it's a 10-step journey, and every 2 months, 2.5 months, we rotate content. Before we move into another subject, we spend a week to 2 weeks on implementation. So if you read a book, I be careful when you listen to people that say they read, 35 to 50 books a year. It doesn't mean anything. What means something is when they say, I read this is what I'm putting into my life. This is how I'm changing it. This is what I'm implementing. 95% of the people that go to Tony Robbins things don't implement anything. Mm-hmm. So there's a 2-month period on a topic, emotional intelligence. where I got to be super raw and vulnerable and real about what I went through, the resources I had access to. But I'll bring in experts, the way you bring in podcast guests. I'll bring in experts to pour into my employees and help them transform. And then we'll switch. So it's a 2-year journey. Meanwhile, I was trying to decide between, should I do solar? Should I do windows? I was looking at the models and the margins and the commissions and the structure, and solar is very attractive because there's only 4% of the nation has renewables. So 96% of it is open to solar, but it's saturated. Man, it's crazy. It's saturated. I went to that D2D-Con, that Sam Taggart event, and I was just like a fly on the wall. And what I learned is that replacement windows is a sleeper. No one does it. And there's a guy in our group, and I'll give all the credit to him. His name's Levi Henry. He was running a company, and they in 3 years, they'll do 80 to 100 million, and very, very impressive business. And so I had the opportunity, I had the blessing to learn from him about that, learn from Brandon about solar, learn from Kevin about pest, learn from my buddy about roofing, and then go, wow, I could really actually do that. I didn't really care what the vehicle was. I don't care if it's shoes or cameras or car tires. I had to have something that scaled. I had to be able to work with 18 to 25-year-olds to build the culture. And then I had to be able to embed that coaching program. So those are the puzzle pieces that started to take shape. Wow, I'll sell residential windows, then I'll sell recurring revenue on cleaning windows, maintaining rain gutters. So I'll get like pest recurring revenue. I'll bring them in and coach them, and I'll rescue them. I'll pull people from Utah foster care. When they turn 18, sadly, foster care is like, good luck out there. I'd be mad if they heard that, but like they don't have like tons of structure for them when they become adults. Yeah. So we are that gap. We're that bridge when the young adults hasn't had that communication from a mature adult, a family member. They certainly haven't had the education on it in high school. And they're feeling a little lost. They're feeling, like they don't know what to do. And they need a tribe. They need a leader. And it will be my honor to help them bridge that and tap into full potential. Yeah. Professionally, you can come kill it. Like I can give you a real clear roadmap of what, moderate and aggressive growth plans look like. But personally, we're going to unlock your heart and soul. I promise we'll heal you, and you will transform as an individual if you do this work. So it's called Hero Windows. Our mission is to create heroes that transform themselves and then go out and transform the world. You can learn more on our website at herowindows.com. But we open up, I love the metaphor to windows. It's like windows open up possibility. Windows open up new perspective and allow us to shine light on places where we need to shine light. And I will sniff that all out, and I'll shine the light on everyone in the organization on where they need to grow and learn. So it's a door-to-door window sales and leadership development company. It's focused on creating heroes, transform their lives, to transform others. We're in Salt Lake now, and then we're going to be opening up offices around the nation. And scaling, and we've got a really attractive compensation package, stock package. Everyone in the company, I'm giving 30% of the business away, and I learned through Brandon and Kevin, and this was like Todd Peterson's brainchild at Vivint of how to actually do it and do it the right way. Yeah. So equity is visible, it's transparent, it's not a question. So I learned how to give it away the right way and develop point systems and make it so people can log in and see points at any given point or any given, time. And so I want to make it way more about the people. So I spent months on thinking about it, putting the puzzle pieces together, and then weeks on mission, vision, values, purpose, manifesto, who we are, how we behave, what we're doing, and then super clear objectives. So I'm calling them 110. So we're going to transform 100 lives. We're going to go We're going to do north of 100 million. We're going to go to 10 markets at least, and we're going to do it for 10 years. So I call it 110. And I will black and white sell this business, and I will prep it for sale. And everyone that's participating will get that 30% will be divvied up based on their points, and they'll each have a percentage. So I am starting with the end in mind, which I didn't do in my first business.
Yeah.
And then when I sold it, a lot of people were laid off, and it's like a secret, and we're being acquired. And this is like, guys, there's the summit right there. This is where we're going. I'm going to guide us. When we get, maybe not even to the peak, we could sell it before, but I promise you in 10 years or less, I will sell this business, and you will know at all points your value. And I will be transparent in what multiples look like and valuation in the business and what we can really do with this. But along the way, we're going to have tons of fun. Incentive trips. We're going to have our hero journey coaching program. The greatest thing for me to know, though, the greatest joy for me will be to experience what Jimmy's experiencing now. It's seeing people transform and seeing their hearts open in their minds. And so I'm starting at a very younger level. Not all of our employees will be, with those troubled backgrounds, if you will. And we have a filter on it. Like, we can't have sex offenders and crazy felonies. But like, if you were like me when I was younger and I had some scars on my record, but I had a good heart and I wanted to change, we've got a spot for you, So that's what I'm doing now. That's super long-winded, but
amazing.
I gave you I haven't given anybody that.
That's cool. I'm happy to be the first to know.
Yeah.
Well, have you ever thought about, I'm assuming there's hundreds of companies out there that would love you to develop these youth into men that are reliable and trustworthy and all the things.
Yeah.
And then retain those employees, right? Mm-hmm. You ever thought about that as a model, instead of you keeping all of them inside of your company to build a window business, like drafting them like the NFL would to like other companies as like a staffing firm?
Yeah, I have actually. I have thought about that, is prepping them and creating the training. And I think that I thought about that a lot. And actually, when I was massaging this, that was one of the models to consider. Yeah. It's like, just build them up and cut them loose and then consult for companies and things. And but I wanted more of the company control. I wanted the culture. There's something for me that's incredibly powerful to show up for individuals and to love them, believe in them, care for them, and show them how to live better. But then do something together. It's incredibly powerful to do something together, to have an outcome, to push to that. So the segue after this, though, would be, when I sell the business, you're not getting the hero journey and coaching program. That's all IP. Yeah. The question is, would customers join the journey, and would they pay to have a son or a daughter or a family member or a friend have access to our culture and our weekly calls? And I think the answer is yes. In fact, I know every single person, everybody, someone that would benefit from it.
For sure.
There's that huge problem in society, and then there's people that are struggling. So I think a transition for me, I've always seen myself teaching at the university. I've had tons of passion for the U of U. I went to grad school up there, and I've had on my vision board to teach. My feelings are evolving quite a bit more with education now, with virtual stuff. And I don't know if I'll be a professor up there, if I'll do teaching, but I will continue to give back and pour into people. So I think at a later time, that content becomes my ability to take that out of the business model of, window cleaning and gutter cleaning and selling windows, and saying, hey, look, I'm still going to help young people.
Yeah, I like that.
And now I have a lot more structure around it.
I like that.
Yeah.
Let's wrap on that. Thank you so much for coming in. It was great to get to know you better, and hopefully we'll continue to be friends after this, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's been an honor. Thank you for having me and letting me share today. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining another episode of the Rollercoaster podcast. Excited that we had Cody Broderick on the episode today. Was really grateful for him coming on and being willing to open up and share. And hopefully you found that valuable as well. The 3 key takeaways that I took from this episode today was, first, to get ahead in life, to have a competitive advantage in life, surround yourself with great men and women. Make sure that you have a tribe that's going to be there to support you and ultimately love you and lift you. Number 2, be hyper intentional with how you spend your time and what you do in your life to avoid some of these traps, some of these pitfalls that we as humans tend to go through. Intentionality is the antidote to these traps. And number 3, be a savage. I love that this word came out so many times on the podcast. I think being a savage, though, starts with your relationships with your wife, with your kids, with your girlfriend, your boyfriend, or your closest friends. And I think if you can master those, then you can be a savage. Thank you for hopping on the roller coaster. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.